Oh, that's right. Just turn it on.
Good afternoon. Oh, sorry. Next slide. Oh, no? Have we switched?
Maybe go one more. There you go.
There we go. Great. Nice one. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, thanks very much for joining the session today. My name's Ryan Tim, and I'm the founder and director of a place branding agency in London called Lantern. And we help places and destinations around the world to tell their story in creative ways. Everything from strategy through to storytelling and visual identity design. So that could be everything from your brand strategy through to the messages that you use for locals and for international markets, through to visual identity, so logo design, typography, color, things like that as well. I'm going to be joined in the panel discussion later with Imbi, Lepik, Martinson from Visit Estonia. Some of you may have seen her speak earlier today. But Visit Estonia are a client of ours, and we've worked with them for a number of years on developing the strategy and the story for telling sustainable stories here in Estonia. Apologies, some of the fonts and things have dropped out of the presentation, which as a graphic designer by trade is a bit annoying for me, but I'll get through it. But yeah, over the next 10 minutes or so, what I would like to do is share the struggles and the solutions that we found in promoting sustainable travel experiences here in Estonia. Hopefully, many of you have had the opportunity to experience the place over the past few days. I'm lucky enough for this to be my 4th time here in Estonia, and hope it's not my last as well. But there are some remarkable stories to tell here, but there are struggles with this destination and many others around the world when it comes to telling them. So I will share those with you. There's 4 that I'll talk through over the next 10 minutes. I'll then share a summary of kind of key takeaways that hopefully will help you guys if you're shaping your own destination story. And then I'll share a couple of QR codes at the end, as we are in the digital nation. So one of those will take you through to the full brand strategy for Visit Estonia. So everything that the nation has done in terms of tourism brand strategy, that's about a 100-page document with really some really good detail in that. And it's great for Visit Estonia to be sharing that with you guys today. And there's also an explainer video as well that links through to. So if you want to go even into more detail, you can watch me talk through that for about an hour. So that might be something for the plane home. But yeah, let's crack on with the struggles. These are the things that we often find in working with destinations around the world. And as I say, with Visit Estonia, it was no exception. One of the big challenges, I think, when it comes to sustainable tourism is that it's very difficult to define. The definitions that are out there are often long, quite varied, and often pretty dull, to be honest. And they aren't the sort of definitions that can engage either with your local audiences, with your local communities, with local businesses, or not to mention travelers that you might be looking to bring to the region as well. And that's the case with Visit Estonia as well. So when we started this process, one of the definitions that we looked at was this. It's probably one of the most cited definitions of sustainable tourism. So this is the UN definition: tourism that leads to the management of all resources in such a way that economic, social, and aesthetic needs can be fulfilled by maintaining cultural integrity, essential ecological processes, biodiversity, and life support systems. There is no way that you are going to engage a local community, a business, or a traveller in sustainable tourism if you're kind of using this as your definition. So step 1 really is trying to create something that is easier to digest. So if you're looking to define what sustainable tourism means for your destination, it's important to look at what it means for you and how you talk about that. So this is the definition we developed for Estonia. So when it comes to sustainable travel experiences here in the nation, it is travel experiences that actively seek to limit their impact on our planet and our people. It's saying a similar thing, but it's doing it in a way that is much easier to digest, much easier to understand for local communities, but also obviously for the travellers that you're looking to bring to a region. Now, there's a lot more detail on this in the document that I'll share at the end. Obviously, we've only got 10 minutes, so there's only so much I can go into. But alongside that, we also developed some principles for sustainable travel experience as well. So the kind of things that we think travel experiences here should follow and should try wherever possible to adhere to. Now, this isn't rocket science. I'm sure you will recognize many of the things on here. So leaving only footprints or traveling off-grid and off-season. But I think one of the most important things we did as part of this process with Visit Estonia was finding real-world examples, those pre-existing experiences and stories that exist in the nation already, and kind of benchmarking them to these principles. So that's really important for a few reasons, really. Firstly, it gives you a catalogue of sustainable experiences as a nation going forwards. Secondly, it's really helpful from a content perspective. So if you're speaking to the likes of Rob and his team, or if you want content for your website or social media, you have pre-existing experiences that you can share. And particularly important with the media as well. So if you're talking to the press, if you're organising press trips, you have a pre-existing set of experiences that you can share with those people. So in Estonia, that's everything from bog shoeing through a national park, which I've had the pleasure of doing, which was a fantastic experience, kick sledging as well. It could be a tasting menu at a zero-waste restaurant or creating tonic water from old pine trees in a forest restoration project. So these are the kind of exciting stories that you can experience here in Estonia. So yeah, if you don't like the definitions that are out there, don't be afraid to create your own. The next challenge, and I think this is one that exists not just in tourism, but for brands around the world, is that sustainability often sits at the side of an existing brand strategy rather than being at the heart of it. So it's kind of bolted on to a strategy rather than being baked into it. And that was a potential direction that we could have taken with the guys at Visit Estonia. But again, we wanted to look at things a bit differently here. So we started working with Visit Estonia as a brand probably about 3 or 4 years ago now on their broader brand strategy and developed the It's About Time strapline, which you may have seen whilst you've been here. And at the time, that focused on 3 specific passion points. So attracting audiences who had a passion for nature, culture, and food. And this was all about driving lower volume, higher value visitors by focusing on these 3 passions. Now, when it came to sustainability, it would have been very easy to bolt on sustainability as another passion point. So we want to also attract people who are passionate about sustainable travel. But we wanted to go a step further than that, and the guys at Visit Estonia were brave enough to take that decision, which is to do this. It's a kind of small change on paper or on a slide, but actually it's a really big difference in terms of the way they operate as an organisation. So sustainability is now a gateway to those 3 other audiences, rather than it being something bolted onto the side. The gateway is sustainability first, and then it's into those passions of nature, culture, and food. As I say, it's a small change in a diagram like this, but it actually has quite broad consequences in terms of implementing that over time. And this is an ambition. It's ongoing, so it's not like the journey is done, but it gives the guys at Visit Estonia a real focus going forwards. So yeah, second point really, if you're struggling with whether to sort of bolt it on or kind of bake it in, wherever you can, make sure you can bake it into the heart of it. The third struggle, this is probably the one I'm most passionate about and the one that I see all the time, and I'm really kind of keen to change, is that I think within the industry there's a real challenge with destinations and regions promoting policies and statistics over experiences. So it's kind of focusing on the facts side of things over feelings. And there is certainly a place for both, but I think we need to get the balance a little bit more even. To give you an example of what I mean by this, so these are some of the headlines that Estonia was using before we began working with them, but also some examples from European destinations. People talk about things like we want to be carbon neutral by 2050 or 2030, or we've got the 4th best urban air quality in the world, or we've got over 500 kilometers of bike paths. These are great facts and figures, and these are great policies, and I don't want to take anything away from the hard work that it takes to kind of implement these sorts of things. But I can guarantee you that most people aren't picking their next destination to travel to because they're going to be carbon neutral by 2050. That is an ambition of many destinations around the world. So you need to get beyond those facts to the kind of the emotional stories that sit behind that. And I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that a national approach to sustainable policy is not the same thing as having an emotive approach to sustainable tourism, and particularly sustainable tourism stories. You kind of need to change the balance so it's a little bit more like this. So you kind of lead with that emotive approach, and then you back it up with those facts and figures and statistics. So I'm not saying that there isn't a place for them at all, but we need that kind of emotional level that sits above. And there's kind of three reasons why that's important, and you guys will be familiar with many of these things, I'm sure. But one, we've heard it in lots of the statistics today and over the course of the last couple of days. People value sustainability in travel. They're prepared to pay more for that. They also value experience-based travel. So people want to hear about experiences and have that local connection. So we need to kind of tell them that. And we're just wired as human beings to value the emotional over the functional. So if you take a different sector, but something like 5G, you don't really care about what sits behind 5G and how it works and how it operates, but you're really passionate about the fact you can watch your favorite Netflix show on the bus on the way to work. It's that kind of emotional what's in it for me that we need to kind of to pull on. And that comes down to this. What we want to do is we really want to give people goosebumps when we're marketing our destinations. And as I say, that doesn't come from talking about being carbon neutral, unfortunately, by a certain point. It comes from those experiences. So kayaking in the 5th season, a remarkable thing that exists here in Estonia, which is a season that sits between winter and spring. It might be fishing with a local island community. It might be spending the night sort of suspended between the sky and the earth in a forest. Those are the kind of things, those are the kind of sustainable experiences that we want to promote and focus on, because that's the kind of the emotional connection that you'll get. Apologies, the fonts haven't loaded amazingly here, but hopefully you'll get the idea. These are some of the messages and kind of creative headlines that we've developed for Visit Estonia over the years. So you will have heard over the last couple of days about the farmer's mindset in Estonia. So this is a place where, from a very early young age, kids know exactly which berries and mushrooms to forage for. They're perfectly happy kind of picking their dinner and then cooking it at home later that day. This is a place where sustainability is a tradition, not a trend. So you can back that up with facts and statistics, but you need that kind of emotional story to tell first. Similarly, if we're talking about water quality or air quality, like I shared previously, well, again, it's kind of capturing that emotive story that sits behind it. So Estonia is a place that's all about time, the time that you spend here. Well, imagine a diary and a schedule that's as clear as the waters here. So you go wild swimming in one of the bogs in one of the national parks, an incredible experience. The water quality is crystal clear, but it's as clear as that schedule in your diary that day. So linking it back to people's kind of emotional outtake. And it's important to have a bit of fun in the process as well. Estonia is a nation that is very proud of the pace of life here. So if we're talking about slow travel and the slow adventure movement and things like that, well, here you can experience a place where everything moves slowly except for the Wi-Fi. So we can talk about the emotion of that slow pace, but obviously mention the digital society at the same time. And the final struggle, which I think Imbi will maybe talk about a bit more in the panel discussion at the end, is that often there is a challenge with nations cascading a strategy down into regions as well. Often it sits at a national level and then kind of doesn't roll out any further than that. And what the guys at Visit Estonia have done, as an example, is work closely with Visit Saaremaa, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, to roll out the strategy on a more local level. So that means things like running local workshops, local engagement workshops to get that strategy understood and rolled out at a local level. Tailoring the strategy itself so it works on a localized and more regional level as well. And then curating and promoting those travel experiences as well. So some of the examples I shared with you previously from a kind of national level, they've curated their own list on a regional level as well. And that looks something like this, if you think back to the slide I showed earlier. So for Saaremaa, the sustainability focus is on the farmers and fishermen's mindset there on the island. And then when it comes to nature and culture and food, the specific kind of shift here is about the pristine environment, the fact that locals here are the destination, the culture, the heritage, rather than the island itself. It's the heritage and culture that's the destination. And when it comes to food, this is more specifically Northern Baltic cuisine. So you can see how a kind of national approach to the strategy can work at a more localized level as well. So I would say if you're kind of in the process of developing your own strategy and story, these are the kind of the 6 key takeaways, I would say. So firstly, if you don't like the definitions that are out there, if you think they're too complex, too difficult to understand, create your own, or, you know, this is sustainability after all, why not recycle? So you could use the Visit Estonia example. Always back that up with best practice examples. It only has to be a start, because obviously you will build these libraries of experiences over time. Put sustainability at the heart of your strategy where you can. It's important not to just do that as a kind of because you feel you should. You need to be able to focus on that and deliver on it. Fourth, I think the big one for me really here is promoting experiences ahead of policies. Those policies are essential, but it's about creating that emotional connection and giving people goosebumps. And then finally, localizing that strategy where you can as well, to ensure it's rolled out at a regional level too. So thank you. That was a kind of quick snapshot in 10 minutes of the sort of quite a few months of work with Visit Estonia. As I say, the QR code on the left will take you through to the full. You'll be able to download the full brand strategy and story for Visit Estonia, and the one on the right is the explainer video. So you'll be able to get a lot more detail on the strategy. But yeah, thank you.
Hey, Ryan. So I got one question for you. Or here, you hold on to the mic.
Yeah, go for it.
What's a destination that you struggle with their current strategy, their brand strategy?
Ooh,
and I was going to ask greenwashing, but I didn't want to go there. So
okay,
what's that you think it doesn't really resonate what it's all about? Maybe they got it wrong.
Somewhere that's got it wrong. That's quite, I'd have to think about that. There's one that comes to mind, though. So my hometown in the UK, or where I'm from originally, is a place called Stroud, which is in Gloucestershire. And over time, it has kind of become home to the first kind of green electricity company started there. Extinction Rebellion, which many of you may be familiar with as an organisation, was founded there. It was the first town in the UK to have an elected green representative. Mm-hmm. And for me, there's a huge missed opportunity there. So they haven't kind of turned that into a strategy or a kind of focus for the destination. And with that being my kind of hometown as a kid, I sort of look at that and think, that's a missed opportunity. It's not so much one that I think they're getting it wrong. They just haven't realised that the opportunity's there. And I think that's often the case. You kind of find with destinations that there are all these things that link a place together. And often one of the benefits of us, I guess, coming in as an outsider is you kind of see it with fresh eyes. Things like the farmer's mindset is kind of something that's kind of familiar to Estonians. But when you're coming to it for the first time, it's like, whoa, we need to talk about this because this is incredible. Yep. So somewhere that's doing it wrong, I'm not sure, but somewhere that's a missed opportunity, I think I'd say, sadly, my hometown.
Sure. Okay. All right. Cheers. Thank you. All right.